All right, so I watched Dirty Pop. Dirty Pop. Yes, that Dirty Pop. Because that was a NSYNC song, I believe. Dirty Pop. So Dirty Pop is about Lou Pearlman,
Okay.
who is no longer with us. Lou
Okay.
Pearlman,
Should we R.I.P. or
he's not really somebody that, I mean, I don't wish dead on anybody, but he did a lot of messed up things to a lot of people.
you about to sneeze already?
Yep.
Someone buy Dash some allergy meds.
Lou Pearlman,
Some Sudafed or some Flonase, something.
my earliest memory of Lou Pearlman is this heavyset white guy who was balding. He had glasses, very pale. My earliest memory of Lou Pearlman was Making the Band, the original Making the Band that came on ABC. Oh yeah,
Wait,
there was
wait,
a
wait, wait.
before Diddy did Making the Band. Making the Band was on ABC. Look it up.
I shall. Specs on. Go ahead, keep talking.
So that is my earliest memory of him. He was trying to create a band. He created the band O Town. He was trying to create the next boy band. The reason he did this was because he had had success with creating with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. So basically, what Lou Pearlman was trying to do, like once he realized the success of the Backstreet Boys, he then tried to continue to replicate that success. So he did that with NSYNC. He tried to do it with O Town. O Town was popular for a little while. And there's a lot of other pop acts that he was associated with.
Okay.
Um, the problem with Lou Pearlman is that he was getting over on everybody. He created a company which was basically like a airline company, but it was a Ponzi scheme.
Okay.
It was, I think, called Transcontinental. So he was always the guy. He would be like, "I'll get you a jet," because it was it was a private airline.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Look at this. Yeah.
Oh
Lou
yeah, because I
Pearlman
used to
making
watch
the band.
Faithfully every Friday. I loved Making the Band from the very beginning. I've seen literally every episode of Making the Band. So yeah, that was my first introduction to him with O Town. I didn't really know about him before then, but he was associated with the Backstreet Boys success and in success. That's why they were so similar. But the reason the doc exists is not really about the great things he did. The reason the doc exists is because,
Wait, but is it? This article says docuseries. Is it a docuseries or a doc?
well, it's a docu. I mean, it's 3 episodes,
Okay.
so docu series is fine. I mean, I think
No,
both of
I
those are,
don't know, so I'm asking. I'm not.
to me,
Maybe the article was wrong.
it's a 3-part doc. I don't, you know. So there are members of the Backstreet Boys who are in the doc. There are members of NSYNC who are in the doc. Members of
Did
O
Justin
Town.
Timberlake make an appearance?
No, but there was a lot of video of Justin Timberlake. What
All
they
right.
basically tell you is that Justin Timberlake is probably one of the few people who really like made a lot of money off of the music. Um, because what he was doing was he was shaving most of the money that they were making off and keeping it for himself. And then he
Mm.
created this company called Transcontinental, which was linked to just about everything that he was doing. And it was supposed to be like an airline, but it also had like these subsidiaries and all of these things. And people would later learn that there were no planes. All of this was a big Ponzi scheme there was no way to pay the money back, even though some of the people in the doc did say they believe if he was still alive, he would have tried to pay the money back. They just think he got in over his head. But people say that, but millions and millions of dollars later, right? Where you was gonna get it from?
Another
So he was
scam, duh.
right. So he was charged with like bank fraud and all kinds of stuff. Like right, exactly. Like Billy from the Fire Festival. There's always another scam around the corner, but um
Scammers got a scam.
scammers got a scam. But yeah, he was charged with bank fraud, and the ultimately I think what got him is that the FBI was on his tail. They were monitoring everything he was doing. He goes to the bank and basically overstates his income, and then and then like a week later, he was trying. Backstreet Boys they sued him. They show this one scene. I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but they show this one scene where Backstreet Boys are super young, and they either went gold or they went platinum, and they present them with their platinum plaques. They present them with their plaques, and they give them their checks. And they open the envelopes and they look at their checks, and a couple of them are like, "Oh my gosh, $10,000! I've never seen this kind of money before." But then one of them turns to another one. They say he was the smart one of the group, and he turns to one of the other ones and he goes, "How much money do you make a year at Outback?" And that's when it clicked for them that $10,000 for all the work they had been doing, all the performing, making an album, all of that didn't seem to make sense.
Right.
But Lou would basically say that he was the sixth member of the group. His
Ooh.
attorney is actually in the doc, and his attorney basically says, I mean, he was the sixth member of the group. Like, he is the person who created the group. He is the one who paid for the dance lessons. He's the one who paid for the vocal lessons. He trained them. He made them what they are today. So why should they get more? I was like, oh. At what point do you stop paying for somebody helping to put you on?
Never.
But how much?
Well, and that's
Like,
that's what I was about to ask you is was he their manager? What were they signed to him as a label?
I think it was both.
Well, then you're gonna make the least amount of money. Not saying that 10,000 is fair for a year.
But
I'm
that's what
not
I'm.
saying that. But hold on. Record labels front the money for most things. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm only speaking about the business practices of the industry. It sounds like to me he was on some 360 deal type of shit
You're
where I'm gonna
saying.
pour.
Sorry. I didn't realize you weren't done.
Sound like he was on some 360 deal shit where I'm gonna get you the lessons. I'm gonna get you the vocal coach. I'm gonna get you to these venues, but then I'm gonna take the bulk of the money. That today is a very common practice. In the 90s, maybe not. But that's why I'm asking these questions. Also, when someone is your manager, and maybe that's the problem. If he's your label and your manager, then yeah, he's gonna get bulk of the money because it is a common practice that your manager can make as much as 30%. And really that depends on your deal with the manager or the management company. It could be more than that. But usually people take anywhere from 25, 35% of what you get up front if they're your manager.
You think that the Backstreet Boys only generated $50,000? They only netted down $50,000.
No, absolutely not.
I think that was the point here, though. I understand what you're saying,
If I was
and I'm
answering
not
your
saying that
question
he
though, you
shouldn't
asked,
make more money than they should have. But I think what I'm pointing towards is that it's from what they said, it seemed quite disproportionate to what he was making, to what
I understand.
he was taking home.
But that's why I get that. But your question was at what point do you stop paying the person who put you on? If they are your label and your manager, both simultaneously, the answer is never, as long as you're in a deal with those people. For example, if today I sign to, I don't know, Sony Records, and I don't have a manager. So Sony Records becomes my manager. I don't know how that would be possible today, but let's just say now Sony Music is managing me, and they're my label. Of Sony Music is gonna get 80 to 85% of the income.
Mhm.
And today with a 360 deal, they would be pouring out way more money because they have the resources, they have the ties to the venues and all of these different things. And so, yeah, I'm not saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying they should be getting $10,000 for a year of work. Absolutely not. I'm only responding to your question, which was, at what point do you stop paying this person?
And I
The
don't
answer
even.
is when the deal is over, which if it's never, but my initial response was never, but I guess the better answer is when the deal is over or when you can renegotiate your contract. Because if they are both of those things, if they're handling everything for you and you're just showing up and singing, or showing up and singing and dancing, performing rather, then they're going to get the bulk of the money. Today with a 360 deal, most people are only making 20 or 15% of the income. The label is making most of the money. That's the deal.
And that's fine. But a group is all I'm saying is a group as big as the Backstreet Boys. After, and I don't know that it was the time frame was a year. I think they just used that as a benchmark to understand the amount of money they had made. But this was after getting a plaque. This was after that they had to have generated so much revenue, right? Like that's the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just saying that I think that when they told the story about it only being $10,000 a piece, I think that they were trying to convey that it was a disproportionate amount to the amount of revenue that they had generated. If at the end of the day they get 20%, if we do the math on that, you're telling me that it was only a few $100,000 that they of revenue that they generated. To me, that
But
just
revenue, see, but this is where the business terms and semantics matter. I didn't watch it, so I can only respond to what you're saying. But if on paper the profit was $100,000, then the answer would be yes. The next question is how often were they paid this amount? Because also that amount is broken up by 5 members. So if
right.
it's
So that's why I'm saying $50,000. If they each receive $10,000, then that's $50,000, right?
but
So
that's why I'm asking how often was that payment supposed to be? If you don't know, it's okay, but that would be my question. Because
I think this was like their
let's
first
say that
check
was
after they had put out an album and after they had started performing. This was their check. Because again, what I'm saying is they presented them with plaques and checks at the same time.
no, I got that part. But if this is the first time you're getting paid and then it's going to be monthly after that, I don't know. I'm asking. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay.
I don't know the
But
answer to that question.
sometimes you can't get paid. Again, if he was swindling them, he's swindling them. I'm
I
just
mean, he
talking
was
on
a
a broader
swindler. That's
business.
that's why I'm like, I don't know what we're debating right now because he was a swindler. He was running a whole Ponzi scheme. So I think what you're saying isn't wrong, but given the given context,
Mhm.
he was a swindler.
Yeah,
He
I get that.
he
I just see
he
both
he.
sides. Like,
You
yeah.
know, he swindled a lot of people out of a lot of money, and that's why he ended up in prison before he died. So it's not like there's a debate on whether he was getting over on people or not. He was convicted of getting over on people.
But was he convicted of doing that, of getting over on the Backstreet Boys?
Well, no, but he was using the airline company as a front, and was then the entertainment stuff was like subsidiaries of this company.
Okay, I got you. I
I
understand.
mean, I think it's worth a watch. I thought it was really interesting. He's dead now. Like he died in prison. But
Well, you told me something off pod that I thought you would say here. You haven't said it yet about the way this doc was done.
Oh, so I thought it was really interesting that they used AI to get his perspective. Apparently, he wrote a book at some point
Mhm.
over however many years. I don't remember what year he died, but before he died, he wrote a book. And so basically, what they did is, I guess they found footage of him talking somewhere, and
Mhm.
they used that to AI generate him saying things from his book. So he was like speaking actual excerpts from his book, which was basically like his philosophies and his perspectives and how he saw things, like as far as the groups went. So they were able to use his voice in that sense. So you see him when they show video of him, it's him like sitting at a desk and he's talking, but it's not technically real. It's AI that's I thought that was really interesting and really smart to do because it is his voice. It's not
Right.
his voice, meaning like from his mind. He was the one who wrote these things. So it's speaking from his point of view is what I should say.
Got
Um, so I thought that was really cool. I'm okay with, I've said it before, I'm okay with AI when we know what you're doing. Also, I feel like when you're using it for good rather than evil, I think AI is okay. So I thought this was really interesting that they did this way. Um, because sometimes that piece is missing.
right.
I love documentaries, but sometimes a lot of times you don't get the perspective of the person they're talking about.
That's
Um,
true.
you get a lot of accounts from them. Like if things were recorded while they were doing whatever they were doing, you'll see stuff like that. But a lot of
Right.
times you don't actually hear from them. And this is not really us hearing from him in real time, but we were able to get a sense of what he was thinking. Um, but yeah, there's some really interesting stuff in the doc. There's even, one of his friends ended up taking his own life, and that becomes a topic of conversation. He was one of the people that he defrauded. So
Mm.
there's a lot of people who were affected by the stuff that he did who speak about him and how it affected them. The woman he was with for however many years, and what she thought about everything. So it was really interesting because honestly, I'm gonna be real honest, and this is gonna sound bad. Maybe it doesn't sound bad. I don't know. I didn't know that man died.
Oh, no, I don't think that sounds bad. We
I
don't
had,
know when every person dies.
yeah, but he was pretty he was pretty prominent in the music industry. I had no idea that man had died. I remember hearing rumblings about his legal troubles, but I don't recall him dying. So I just thought the whole thing was really interesting, especially if you were ever into like the boy band era or what was going on with that. It's interesting to see what was going on, and like how and hear Backstreet Boys actually talk about how they kind of uncovered what was going on and um, you know realizing that they couldn't trust him and because what they do show you, like some of the initial footage, is how close they were to him. He would
Mhm.
they would call him like Papa Bear, which you watch these docs. Let me just say this: you watch these docs, right? And like people talk about like the origin stories, and it'll be like the people who were in it will think that the origin story was like really sweet and nice. And I just be sitting there like there was something really perverse about these young men having this person like try to turn them into a super group and them calling him Big Papa.
I love it when they call me Big Papa.
I was like, that man ain't your daddy. Also, I don't know. They said he was very inappropriate. It was kind of like Dan Schneider, where they said he was very inappropriate, but no one ever accused him of doing any like assault or anything like that. But to me, there's something very perverse about having these young men call you Big Papa. Um,
Definitely.
especially when there's like this transactional thing, you're making money off of them. It's just a weird, it's weird. And I was like, why people don't notice that when it's happening? Like, I'd have been like, no, I'm not calling you Big Papa. But you, why you want me to, why are we doing that?
It's a good question. Well, what age were they when this was happening?
Young? I don't know. It was the beginning. It was the beginning of them being a group. So you can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, they were teenagers.
Yeah. So I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I am definitely gonna try to watch it. I don't have Netflix, but I'll try to see if I can finagle something. Um, I do not want to make it seem like I'm simply defending this guy. I think what happens is a lot of times we hear stories of the entertainment industry as outsiders, and we don't understand how common some of these practices are. And so that's all I was trying to speak about because I see the other side as far as that goes. Like we have discussed many times, like
Mhm.
contracts that come up and people say like, "Oh, I got signed to this bad contract and they were fucking me over." And then you learn like, "Oh, but that's what everybody goes through in the industry." So that's why I was asking questions. I didn't watch the doc. I would watch it. I don't seem disinterested. It seems like a really interesting watch. He
Mhm.
definitely seems foul. But that's why I was asking questions. Because I think that's what happens. Sometimes we hear stuff and it's like, whoa, 7 album deal. How did that happen? But then you learn like, well, in the 90s, that was common, right? Um, so that's why I asked. But no, you shouldn't be having teenage boys call you Big Papa. You shouldn't be stealing people's money. And I also think every time we speak about groups getting paid, it is murky water. We have heard multiple stories of groups talking about how they felt they should have been getting paid more, they were underpaid, all of this stuff. But part of the problem is you have to take that amount of money and split it between the members of the group. So even $100,000 check, for example, split amongst 5 people, it's not a ton of money you're walking away with. And
Yeah.
so I think that's one of the things that people don't think about
Mhm.
as the outsiders looking in. If I said, hey, boys to men at the height of their career were only paid $20,000 a month, you'd be like, what? $20,000? That's crazy. But really, that's $100,000 a month
A
or
month
more.
makes sense to me. It just that wasn't the vibe that I got, that it was like something they were getting monthly.
But
It
that's
seemed
why I
like
was
it was like a
asking, and we
one
don't
time
know
check that they had
explicitly.
gotten. So
Well, that's yeah. I feel like those are some of the details that we would need to be able to um, gauge better because how often and why and the payment setup is important. Many rappers have said music money comes extremely slow.